Okay, Gil, tell us. Let's start off.
Hi, this is Gilbert Gottfried, and I'm here with my co-host Frank Santopadre, and this is a special Patreon episode of Gilbert Gottfried's Amazing Colossal Podcast, and we have a return guest from the team of Sandler and Young, Tony Sandler.
Who are those guys?
So how long were you and Ralph Young together?
Okay, we were together for 20 years. Out of my career, which was 65 years, I prefer to start and put the boxes together or preserve everything we had that was in all my archives. I decided to start all over again and digitize them and create the boxes and the artwork, and you name it. It was a big job. It was a big job, but there they are, all comprised in 4 sets.
Because I remember growing up, I mean, the two of you were on TV. It's like
Everywhere.
Every other show. You
want to hear the TV shows we did?
Yeah,
Tonight
rip
Show,
off there. You got that in front of you?
Tonight Show, the Today Show, the Merv Griffin, Mike Douglas, Andy Williams, Dean Martin, Red Skelton, Dinah Shore. Remember her?
Oh, yes.
So, and of course, Ralph and I were probably some of the few artists that did 8 Ed Sullivan shows. 8.
Wow.
Did you guys do the final Sullivan show?
We did. Yeah. Ed loved us. He had seen us at the Plaza in New York at Persian Room. And he was there one night that we were performing. And the next day, he wrote in the paper, I was in the Persian Room at the Plaza Hotel, saw Sandler and Young. They're terrific. And that was that.
That was a turning point.
You told a funny story the last time of working with Sid Caesar.
Oh, that's part of this whole Kraft set that we have.
Yes,
now,
he's on this.
Yeah,
this box.
he is. Yeah, Sid was a master at gibberish. Talking gibberish. You remember that, right?
Yes, he would. So it would sound like he was talking Italian, German.
Well, the funny part
French.
was when he met me, he talked to a guy that spoke all those languages. See, I speak 5 languages.
Mm-hmm.
And he just loved that stuff. See, so I could switch from Italian to German and even Flemish, my native language. And then, of course, French. He was great at imitating French, too. He was a treasure. I mean, this man, I loved working with this guy. He was a total treasure. Absolutely. Sid Caesar.
He's in 2 of these Kraft Music Hall shows that you restored.
He is, yeah.
And as Gilbert says, he's speaking gibberish while you're speaking actual French.
But that's exactly, yeah.
And some Japanese, phony Japanese at one point.
And you said that after the show, everyone was amazed that Sid Caesar's.
Because Gilbert, the average American audience, not speaking the other languages, thought that he had a long and intense conversation with me. See. Absolutely. I loved Sid Caesar, by the way, guys. He was a treasure. Yeah.
So, Tony, before we get into it, and we'll go all the way back down memory lane, not only Sid Caesar, but everybody, all the other guest stars that show up, and this is only one of the 4 boxes in the new Legacy series.
Right.
So tell us about this long journey. You had to track down a lot of stuff. It was a daunting task.
We had to what? I'm sorry.
I said you had to track down all of this stuff from over the years.
Well,
a very long career. You had to
exactly.
Compile everything.
So I had, Frank, I had an extensive amount of archive stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And at my age, I decided to revamp it all, preserve it, revamp it, digitize it, remix it, create the artwork. I have a great crew of people here with me that did an absolute professional job. Create the inserts that have those inserts, by the way, if you look at them, are very precise, and they have to be correct. So the research took a lot of time to make this perfectly. So I tried to create the Sandler and Young legacy boxes as authentic as possible.
Right.
And I think we succeeded with those 4 sets.
And this is a perfect collection for this podcast, because on this podcast, we like to keep alive all of show business.
Yeah, the retro stuff.
Yes, exactly.
So of the 12 of these that you guys did, and we'll explain to our listeners to take them back and give them a little context. You guys hosted the Kraft Music Hall, which was a very popular variety series. You guys did 12 over one summer of 1969.
Yes.
You were able to find 8 of the 12.
Well, that's the thing. See, a lot of that stuff was left. It was then bought by a firm in London that lost it all, I guess. You know, there were a lot of great British artists on the show with us. I mean, big name artists, you know, Norman Wisdom, all those guys.
And Judy Carn.
I'm sorry?
Judy Carn.
And Judy Carn, you know, but we had a list of Norman Wisdom.
Terry Thomas.
Terry, I love Terry. You know, this guy, when you saw him walk, was funny. You know, but we had a list of Kaye Ballard, Sid Caesar, Sid Caesar.
Yeah,
she was phenomenal. Carol Lawrence, Lena Horne was one of our guests.
Right.
Frank Gorshin, remember him?
Sure.
Oh, absolutely.
You had Barbara Feldon, who we had on our show.
Yeah, and then Ella Fitzgerald, of course, and Judy was co-starring with us.
Right.
But that Norman Wisdom, he was a special guy. If people take the time to look at those shows, who are very entertaining, I think. What do you think, Frank? You saw
it was great. I sent Gilbert some of the Gorshin clips.
Oh, the Gorshin clips, yeah, he was great.
It's like, I remember Frank Gorshin. Anybody who imitates Burt Lancaster or Kirk Douglas is imitating Frank Gorshin.
But he oh yeah, there you go. See, but this guy could switch from one to the next in a second.
Sure.
He was amazing. His demeanor, his attitude, his composure, his voice at the same time.
Yeah.
This guy was amazing.
He wasn't a bad singer. Because in the solo piece,
he could.
You guys give him. Yeah, he starts out as Dean Martin. He goes to Cary Grant and then Rod Steiger, but then he breaks into song.
He was no Sandler and Young, but he was good.
And you told me something the last time that I found very depressing, and that's that Ralph Young wanted to retire.
Well, here's what happened. You know, not too many people saw that when we were standing on stage together. Frank, you saw some of the performance.
Sure.
You know, it was not obvious that Ralph was 16 years older than me. That was not obvious. And Ralph retired at 65, regretted it shortly thereafter because the glamour was gone and all that stuff. I was only 49 when he quit. You know, that was, and Ralph was such a dear man, great voice. And for 20 years, for me, you know, one of the greatest partners I could think of. Mm-hmm. Ralph from the Bronx and Tony Sandler from Flanders.
two mismatched guys, and yet it worked out so beautifully. But as Gilbert said, he had regrets about walking away.
He did because it was probably a spur of the moment reaction, knee-jerk reaction that he had, I guess. Mm-hmm. I never questioned him about that, actually, because I knew that he wanted to take it easy in Palm Springs, you know, where he lived, and sit in the sun. And Ralph lived till 90. You know, he was 90 years old when he passed. Yeah.
Good for him.
But
now I'm getting there, Gilbert. I'm getting there.
You're spry, Tony. You're spry.
You think so?
I do.
With this collection, it brings Ralph Young back to life, so everyone else can enjoy.
Gilbert, that was one of my great desires, to not let this die. There's some, there's in the sets here, especially the recording, if we talk about the Capitol, those Capitol recording stars, they called us, at the time. Can we talk about that now?
Sure, go ahead. Go right ahead.
Capitol.
That's this box.
That's this box. There's 10 albums on there that we recorded for Capitol, and how we came into Capitol. Okay, we were performing at the Persian Room, and Alan J. Livingston was the president of Capitol. He saw us, and we sat at the table, and he said, "Boys, I want to sign you." At the time, the Capitol time, we had all those great stars there. I mean, you had Nat King Cole, had just passed, by the way. King Cole.
Yeah.
You had Nancy Wilson, the Bee Gees then at the time, and also Peggy Lee, remember?
Right, sure.
Yes.
That all there is.
So King Cole had just passed, and Maria Cole, his wife, a dear woman, she fell in love with Sandler and Young, and sometimes during some of our recording sessions, she would sit there and just smile. She was the mother of Natalie Cole.
Yes.
Okay. So, and we were treated at Capitol, royally, guys, royally. We had the best arrangers. Remember Billy May? Billy May was the guy that wrote a lot of stuff for Frank.
Yes.
Frank Sinatra. Bob Bain was a master in writing string parts, and then Jimmy Jones was terrific too. And then an odd fella, Sid Feller, was all those guys. We had the best.
Yeah, you surrounded yourself with the best.
And Dave Cavanaugh was the A&R man, artist in the repertoire at the time. Dave Cavanaugh.
Yeah.
And Dave Cavanaugh, Frank had actually made Nat King Cole.
I didn't know that. He was the man behind Nat King Cole's.
The A&R, the artist and repertoire. Dave Cavanaugh.
Well, you had a whole machinery behind you then at Capitol.
Well, not only that, that's the distribution of Capitol, which is huge.
Yeah.
So the first album we recorded was called Side by Side.
Right.
And we had Dominique in there. That had made the rounds.
Side by Side.
Dominique, yeah. And where I sing Dominique, Nique, s'en allait tout simplement, where Ralph goes, way down upon the Swanee River. Simultaneously, that was our Code Limit deal. You remember that one,
Of course. I was going to ask you about that singing style. We'll ask you later.
Show business is infamous for throwing away stuff. Like they have recordings of TV shows that they just toss out.
And it's a shame.
Yeah.
Gilbert, it's a shame.
Yeah.
So I decided I got to preserve this. I had, like I said, 65 years in my career, 20 are Sandler and Young. Now I'm working very hard to preserve all my stuff. Before I met Ralph, I had a serious career in Europe, and then post Sandler and Young too. So our next program, we're going to talk about Tony Sandler. How's that, Gilbert?
Oh yeah.
So now that you finished, Tony, your next project, now that you've tackled putting all of Sandler and Young on disc, is to go and compile and restore all of your solo work?
All of my solo work as well. Ambitious. I had several hits in Flanders, in Belgium, in Austria, in Germany, of course, and in Switzerland. And I performed a lot in Italy before I met Ralph, So I was all over Western Europe, please.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll go back. Let's go back to when you first met Ralph, which I want to talk about, and your height had something to do with that.
We're here. I'm performing in Italy. I'm at the Cafe Roma, which was a beautiful theater overlooking the Mediterranean Sea, on top of a large building, built-in amphitheater. And I performed. I was actually the headliner there for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And some Italian fellow that I met occasionally from Milan came to me one day and he said, Tony, we had a Campari or something together, or two. He said to me, would you like to go to Vegas? I said, would I like to go to Vegas? Yeah, every European entertainer wants to go to Vegas, of course. And what it's all about, he said, it's the Casino de Paris show. And that was put together by Frédéric Apgar. And Reen Renault was the French star from Paris, La Parisienne. And Apgar had hired Ralph, but they needed another balance next to Reen Renault. On the other side of Reen Renault, there would be Ralph, and who was be the next guy. So I meet with Apgar in Milan, and he said, as I walked in there, I said, he said to me, Mr. Sandler, Monsieur Sandler, because he spoke French to me at the time, and he said, Monsieur Sandler, combien mesurez-vous? How tall are you? I said, 1.87 meters, sir. He said, translated, that's 6'2". You want to go to Vegas? He said, because Ralph was 6'1". See,
that's right.
So he needed to match, and that's really the only reason that I came to America. Would you believe that?
If you had been 5'8", what would have happened to your career?
If I was 5'8",
yeah, would we be having this conversation right now?
Probably not.
Would you'd be like a janitor or something.
But Gilbert, I had a very solid big career in Europe, though, and people forget that.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't wanting for anything, and I said for 3 months, yeah, I'll come for 3 months, and after 3 months, they extended it. Because it was such a big hit, the Casino de Paris show at the Dunes in 63, 64. And Ralph and I, meanwhile, were bored stiff in that show. You know, it was way below what my anticipation was of what I could do in that show. And so we started working, we put stuff together, and I discovered that Ralph's voice, that wonderful, deep, resonant baritone voice, and my voice created a special sound, guys, that I heard immediately. Special harmonics, Frank, were created between those two voices. Strangely enough, you know, it's that's what happened. And we started working on stuff, and all of a sudden, after a year, Apgar came to us and said, I want to sign you for another year. I said, no, or I'm going back to Europe, or it's going to be Sandler and Young. And Ralph and I started in the lounges in Vegas at the Sahara.
And then meeting Phil Silvers was a turning point.
Ah, that story. That's a good one, because Phil had heard us rehearsal in a rehearsal, and he was in the main room at the Sahara while we were in the lounge. And when we performed in the lounge, we had the rotten times, 2:30 in the afternoon and 2:30 at night, something like that, you know. Wow. Nobody in the lounge, of course. 4 people.
Those were your show times?
Wait a minute. Prostitutes.
2:30 p.m. and 2:30 a.m. were your show times?
Yeah.
That's the swinging hour in Vegas.
Those are swinging hours, Gilbert. But we had no audience. So Phil is in the main room and packed house. And at the end of the show, he said, folks, I don't know what you're going to do here, but after the show, I'm getting out of my tuxedo and I'm going straight to the lounge to see those 2 guys, Tony and Ralph, Sandler and Young. And you would not believe it. We had a packed house and we proceeded to do our thing. And from then on in, boy, it shot up like crazy. Polly Bergen came in with Freddie Fields, her husband, who was a big producer, you know, remember?
Sure.
So Polly brought us with her to the Persian room, and from there came Capitol and all the rest, Ed Sullivan, all the rest of the story, Gilbert. Think of that, huh?
So what would have happened with Sandler and Young had Phil Silvers not announced he was going to?
Well, it would have taken a lot longer, but we were breaking through. believe it or not, but it would have taken an awful long time. We shot up like a rocket as soon as we were seen in the bigger houses, and that it was amazing.
And what was Phil Silver's stage show and him as a person? Can you
Phil?
Yes.
Yeah. What would you remember? His stage show?
Phil Silver was a prince.
Yeah.
Phil Silver was a prince.
Prince of a guy.
Of a man, sensitive to a fault almost. I mean, like I said, I talked about all the other guys here, but Phil Silver was a special man, and so funny when he played that clarinet and his looks and all that stuff. That was a class act. Let's face it. They're not around anymore, guys.
That's a golden age of show business that's never coming back, Tony.
Isn't it, Frank? I mean, and that's one reason also that I worked on this here, on those box sets. To at least preserve it, and maybe there is an audience out there, huh? Still.
Oh, I'm sure of it. Tell us, Gilbert and I are curious about some of the comics that opened for you guys. I mean, and I was looking up, I did some Googling, and I found some old marquees. Which you
find. Did? What did you discover, Frank?
Myron Cohen.
Oh,
Myron Cohen?
Myron was, I love Myron. Was always impeccably dressed, He was a haberdasher in New York. You know that?
Yes, he was. Yeah.
Myron Cohen. Oh boy, yeah, Myron Cohen, Sandler and Young.
Yep.
We headlined quite for many years actually at the Flamingo. That combination. Yeah,
sure. And I remember with Myron Cohen, it's like he had a Jewish accent that was bordering on British. He would talk like this.
He was a very funny man. He was a very funny man.
According to my research, let's see, Corbett Monica worked with you guys?
Corbett.
Wow.
Corbett. Oh, Corbett Monica. Yeah, he double billed with us quite often too, Corbett.
Yeah. And also Maury Amsterdam?
Oh.
Maury Amsterdam. Do you remember Ben Vereen?
Of course.
Yes.
He's still around. We saw him in New York a few years ago.
Oh, you did?
And,
yeah. Well, you see her, say hi for me.
And what was Maury Amsterdam like to work with?
Well, he walked on stage with his cello and he did his thing, He was scratching his cello.
How long would the comic set be opening for you guys? 30 minutes? Huh?
30 minutes.
30 minutes solid.
And the main act, an hour, not an hour and one, not an hour and two, but an hour. Because the slot machines have to work, see?
Of course. I understand Pasquale Caputo also worked with you guys in Vegas. Pat Cooper.
Yeah. Pasquale Caputo. How did you find all that out?
I did a little Googling, and you can find these Vegas pictures of Vegas marquees that say Sandler and Young.
Yes,
and under it says like Jackie Kahane.
Oh, yeah.
And,
yes, of course.
Fred Travellina.
Yeah. Well, Fred also worked with us.
Yeah. The late Fred in the 70s.
When you were looking for all this footage, did you find that they had, tossed away a lot of what you had done?
Well, first time for all, Gilbert, in Vegas, they didn't film. It was prohibited.
Yeah.
Vegas shows were never filmed. So what you have here on the box set that's called the Golden Years of Sandler and Young, you have, for example, a show that we did. It's called An Evening With.
That's great. And Places is on here too.
And Places, I want to talk about Places a little bit. But An Evening With was set in Toronto, and it was kind of a duplication of the chic nightclubs, And you remember the chic nightclubs, the Persian Room. During our era, that era, you had the Persian Room, you had the Copacabana, Coconut Grove in California,
sure,
where most of the Hollywood stars came to see us, including Kirk Douglas came to see us.
Oh,
that's cool.
And Edward G. Robinson.
Wow,
that's cool too.
After the show, I was in my dressing room, and they came to say hi. Quite a few of those big stars. And when it was fresh from Europe to say, and when Edward G. Robinson shook hands with me to congratulate me.
Ah,
Can you imagine?
That is
what?
great.
Yeah, what do you remember about talking with Edward G. Robinson?
It was a short conversation, but he was so complimentary, I remember, and a gentle fella. Kirk Douglas had an interesting view when he saw us. He came and he said, "Boys, I was watching the two of you," he said, and I saw something that I haven't seen much," he said, "or not at all," he said. "It's like the two of you work close together, and it's like you're not working for the public. You draw them into you."
That's interesting.
That was an observation by Kirk Douglas that I recall, of course.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
What about some of these other legendary? I think the last time you were here, we asked you about Shacky. We asked you about Buddy Hackett. We asked you about Rickles. Did you interact with Red Fox?
Yes, I knew all those guys. Rickles was in the lounge with us at Sahara at the time.
The Sahara.
So, but he didn't have the 2 afternoon and the 2 at night. He had Rickles had the 6 or 7, and he was always, how what Rickles' act was at the time. And one day he comes to me, he said, "Tony, I'm going to need a bodyguard." I said, "Yep."
What do you remember about Rickles?
He was a regular guy. I loved him. I mean, I loved Don Rickles as a man, absolutely. He loved Sandler and Young, so we loved them back, and it was camaraderie, let's say, camaraderie amongst all the people that were in the lounges there. When you talk about whom, then you mentioned before.
I mentioned Hackett and Shecky.
Buddy Hackett.
Yeah.
Well, Buddy Hackett was a special case. I became good friends with Buddy, by the way.
Didn't Buddy carry a piece? Did he carry a gun?
Not that I know, maybe later in his life, but I remember that he was he was a poet too. Do you know that?
Yes. I know he wrote poetry.
Hackett was a poet, and he had a deep soul. Sometimes he would call me late at night crying. We were actually quite close. We played a lot of tennis together.
Wow.
Hackett and I, he played doubles with me, and he was the worst double player that I have ever seen.
And what was he crying? What was he upset about?
Gilbert, he was a deep thinking, a very sensitive man.
It's interesting.
And he had problems, not psychological problems, but he had deep problems sometimes about society. Hard to explain actually to you guys, Yeah, he was, but Hackett was, well, he was crazy too, because he walked naked on the stage at one time. So
yes, yes,
right. So if you decide to do that, it would be a little bit.
And Sammy became a friend too, right? Sammy Davis.
Well, Sammy was special. Ralph and I at the Flamingo, the Sands, the Rat Pack next door, our competition actually. So you had Sammy, you had Bishop, and you had, of course, Dean Martin that we got to know very well.
Yeah, you guys were on Dino's show.
Yeah, we did three Dean Martin shows, and then of course Frank, and then the Englishman,
Peter Lawford.
There you go.
Yes.
Yeah. Didn't Frank call you? Sorry, Gil, I just wanted to ask this. Didn't Frank call you when Nancy Sinatra did the Kraft show?
How do you know that?
I know stuff, pal.
Yes. Nancy was our guest star in the Kraft shows in London.
Yeah.
And Nancy was a hard worker. And we did a nice piece together, actually, Sandler and Young and Nancy Sinatra. And Frank, during that week of rehearsal there for the show, would call occasionally to find out how she was doing. And he actually preferred to talk to Ralph than to me for some reason, but that's all right, you know. But
Ralph's a Bronx kid.
yeah, there you go. See,
Watching these shows. Go ahead, Gil. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying, like Vegas was like created by the mob, and
well, the
for a
Flamingo.
while, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the Flamingo. What was it? The mob. When we were there, what was it? The mob. We had something hanging on our dressing room, guys, that said, "No blue material." Do you know that?
No.
Well,
No blue material. You could not tell a dirty joke on stage, but we were run by the mafia. Interesting, isn't it?
What was the mafia like to work for?
Well, when you fill the house, Gilbert, what do you think? The slot machines are working.
What did you tell us last time you were here, Tony? They bought you a car? They put you guys in it. They put you guys in homes?
Oh, that was in Tahoe.
In Tahoe, excuse me.
That was in Tahoe, where we worked for this magnificent man. Can you think of his name?
I can't remember, but from
he
the last episode.
He had the biggest old car collection. Does that ring a bell?
He had an old car collection?
Yes, the largest in the world, actually.
Wow.
But when you worked for this man, who became a big fan, Sandler and Young fan, Bill Hara was his name.
Oh, Bill Hara.
Bill Hara would give each of us a house to stay in. We usually had a contract for 2 weeks there. So you got a beautiful house there to stay in. You had a maid and a cook. And then your choice of Rolls-Royce.
Rolls-Royce. See, I had it wrong. I said a Cadillac. Shame on me.
Color choice of Rolls-Royce. I chose a light blue, and he had one. Yeah.
So you
Great
were
days.
treated nice.
Oh, Gilbert, like kings actually, and also a full bar in the house with no questions asked.
Incredible. Gilbert, it's not that way anymore.
No.
It's not, guys. It's not that way anymore.
Gilbert's lucky if he gets a milkshake backstage when he plays a club.
But Gilbert, when you listen to all those stories now, but that era, and you said it before, there was the golden age of showbiz, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
And we were just at the tail end, actually. Ralph and I were just at the tail end of that. That's what it was. It was clean material on stage, substantial songs by the greatest songwriters that we could find in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, compare that with today. I'm sorry. I'm not an old doddering fool here that thinks that things stay the same. But think about it. It has changed drastically, and I'm dismayed about it.
Other than Irving Berlin, what songwriters did you guys interact with? I know you knew Irving Berlin.
Oh, Irving Berlin was, well, hey, we used them all. Lerner and Lowe, Irving Berlin.
All of them.
Yes, I mean the great songwriters in from New York, Frank.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was no comparison. Cole Porter.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you listen to the Porter songs today, how brilliant they were.
Brilliantly constructed.
Very
much so.
All this it's not lost because it's in one of those 4 sets, guys. It's right here.
It's great to hear them again. Gilbert,
what
I'm sorry,
do you
what were we gonna ask?
What do you find different about showbiz then and showbiz now?
That's a big question, Gilbert. That's a big question. What do I find different?
Yes.
A substance.
Mm-hmm.
That's my word. We had at the time substance. When Ralph and I recorded the songs that we did, the substance of the songs, the large orchestras they allowed us to have, the magnificent arrangements by those people at the time.
Like Billy May.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, so it's substance. It's it's lightweight compared to heavy stuff.
Yeah. Well, the craftsmanship isn't there anymore.
And the craftsmanship, maybe, yes, Frank, that you're true. I mean, the true professional out there is hard to find. Yeah.
Gilbert would get a kick out of this too. I watched all 8 of these
did?
wonderful Kraft Music shows. And Gilbert, it's wonderful to see Ralph and Tony doing these comedy skits, which I've heard you say. I mean, there's one of them, Tony's dressed as Napoleon. He goes into a psychiatrist's office, played by Ralph. And the great old bit, he says, you say to Ralph, I think I'm a dog. And he says, I can help you. Lie down. And you say,
I'm not allowed.
I'm not allowed on the couch. But to put all of those shows together under that kind of schedule.
Pressure.
The pressure of what, 12 shows in how many weeks?
In 10 days, in 10 weeks.
In 10 weeks.
And because they had to come up, there's a lot of skits in there and all kinds of things. And working with Norman Wisdom was tough, because Norman was a professor, such a perfectionist, let's say. Mm-hmm. That I would work with this guy sometimes to exhaustion, and said, hey, Norm, that's enough already, It had to be so timed and so perfect, all the stuff he did. There's a bit where I sit on the piano and he wants to say, when Irish are smiling, and I'm on the phone. A very funny bit, right? And then he sees me jump on the piano and casually talk amour or love on the phone.
Yeah.
And he still wants to sing when Irish eyes are smiling. And then he tries to jump on the piano. He was a little guy, see, and he falls off, of course.
Yeah.
It's so funny to hear about you as Napoleon, because I remember growing up, the symbol that someone was insane is that they dress him up as Napoleon.
When Napoleon was short and fat.
Yes. Tony comes into the scene, into the sketch, and of course he's got his hand in his shirt.
Yes,
like Napoleon. And did you go back and watch these? I'm also taken by the young brunette that you are making out with in the sketch where she's trying to communicate with her boyfriend.
Yeah, and she
finally
kisses me.
And she kisses you, and you hold the kiss for about a minute and a half. Did you like doing these comedy skits?
I loved it. But like I said, it was a lot of pressure because short time. See, and you have to sleep sometimes.
Sure.
And then
you had to learn dance steps too. I mean, you and Ralph are doing Dear Old Donegal, and you're doing.
Oh, that was a good one, wasn't it?
Yeah, you're in an Ireland set, and
I mean, really, that set. If people get that, it's I believe great entertainment. It's just yeah.
We've had a few guests on the show who back then said, like TV used to be packed with variety shows.
Yeah,
and they were doing a different variety show each week.
Hard work.
Yes.
Hard work.
I can imagine.
Hard work. But in the case of the Kraft show, there were new funny situations that had to be created, new songs. Dicka Dicka Dum Dum. I never heard of Dicka Dicka Dum Dum, but I had to sing it off the top of my head. There was all kinds of stuff, and you had to be,
Well, and a lot of
pretty
variety.
ready.
You guys are doing classic songs. You're doing standards, but then you're also doing Candor and Ebb. You're singing Cabaret, and you're singing the 59th Street Bridge song, Feeling Groovy, the Paul Simon song with Judy
Frank,
Carn.
Yeah.
So Frank, it's a little bit of everything.
Yeah, talk about variety. When you're gonna get my stuff, kiddo.
Okay, I can't wait.
I sing classical. I sang in 6 different languages. I did Maurice and Me, a one-man show.
Yeah, sure.
That was a tough one because you have to memorize an hour and a half show. One-man shows are tough. But we talk about that. We're talking Sandler and Young here, aren't we? Or did I forget something?
You can talk about anything you want. How many songs did you record post Sandler and Young? Well over 400, yes?
675.
675. Gilbert.
Jeez.
And I'm trying to preserve them all.
Oh, I'm tired just thinking about you singing
Yeah,
675.
but hey, guys, I have a great crew here that work with me. Just super people that achieved those 4 sets here with me.
Yes, let's give them
Luck-
credit.
Luckily, yeah, they need, and I have a lady that works with me who is a wordsmith, Marna Peterson.
Marna, yes. Shout
Yes,
out
she
Marna.
is. And you have talked to her, I guess, Frank.
Yes.
Have you talked to her on the phone? Yeah.
She's great. And we want to shout out Michael, too.
Say again.
Let's shout out Michael as well. Let's give
Oh,
Michael.
Michael is a genius, the guru here.
Yes.
Yes, and he feels very comfortable. Did you feel comfortable with him from the start?
He's a pro's pro.
The pros pro.
You
Yeah.
put a great team together.
He loves vodka.
Okay. Duly noted.
You guys. Well, this is fun, guys. Gilbert.
Yes.
This is really fun with your people. I mean, what can I tell you?
It's what feelings were stirred in you, Tony, going back and watching this stuff, and I would imagine some of it you hadn't seen in years.
Well,
Like
I said, I'm going on 89. So
Yeah.
an 89-year-old man relives all that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a blessing. Can you? And I feel good. I feel fine. So to be able to relive all that and then have people like you interested in it and see it put forward in front of the public. I mean, I couldn't be a happier man. Let's face it. It's wonderful.
That's nice.
Couldn't do any better.
That's nice. So you're looking back on all the years and all the specials and all the albums and then even in the post Sandler and Young era, you played 49 out of 50 states, which is another achievement. Every state but Vermont.
Why would that be? I wonder.
I don't know. But you look back with you must be filled with a sense of pride of having achieved all that. And every artist wants to put stuff on the shelves. Put product on the shelves.
Well, I am proud, and to talk about when I toured after Ralph Young, when I toured for Cami, that was probably, Frank, I got the biggest satisfaction out of that. And do you know why?
No.
I went to small communities with regular people. No glory except the love of those people after a performance, the care. It was through where you conveyed your feelings through a song or through a performance, and they got it, and they were touched. I mean, there's nothing like it for a performer.
That's nice.
There's nothing like it.
That's nice.
I
have to say, watching Sandler and Young, and Gilbert and I both grew up on you guys. I think one of the appeals is watching the two of you and saying these two guys like each other. The chemistry is these two guys. You're finishing each other's sentences. Of course, the timing is there. Of course, it's a well-oiled machine. But you're watching two friends. By the way, talking about classic show business, Gilbert, when was the last time you saw a singing duo?
Oh my God!
Or even a male singing duo.
That's what I mean. But I mean, all the singing duos I could think of was Sonny and Cher, and Ike and Tina Turner. I couldn't even think of a male singing duo.
I remember there were the Times Square 2.
The Times Square 2.
Yeah.
Or even comedy duos. You had Stiller
Yes.
and Mira and Burns and Schreiber.
Well, we were unique in many ways, and I never actually duplicated. I don't think Sandler and Young was ever duplicated.
I don't think so.
No,
And because it's funny, you hear like Jerry Lewis talking about the love between him and Dean Martin. So it does seem like there was a love between the two of you guys.
Clearly.
Well,
Right.
I mentioned Marna before. She knows all my stuff deeply because she writes about it. She writes all the inserts, by the way. There's always a beautifully perfect insert in every one of those sets. You have
they're
seen
great.
that, right? And they're precise. But she says the same. She said, those guys look like brothers, after from two different continents.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, and well, that's probably a very good perception. I love this guy. I love singing with him. That deep, resonant voice that he had, I could add my 2 cents to it, and that created a sound, that the Sandler and Young sound, with capital.
And it seemed like there was like a happiness between the two of you when you were performing.
Yes, and and the light humor that came in. He would call me Monsieur. Monsieur.
Did he ever pick up any French in all the years?
Ralph could, when we sang, and we recorded quite a few French songs actually, and Ralph would, I would record them for him, and he would listen to it for a couple of days, and he was always pretty close, I must say.
Really?
Not speaking a word of French, but the same with Barbara Streisand. When performing at the Plaza at the time, Barbara Streisand was there, and she came to me and she said, "Tony, j'ai enregistré un disque en français." I said, "Oh, wow, you recorded a long playing in French." That's what she said in French. She said, "Oui." And I had a chance to listen to that. And although she didn't speak French at all, she put an album down phonetically that was amazing. This woman was very, very talented. Barbara Streisand.
Wow.
So,
you knew them all.
I knew them all. Well, we were riding at the top there for all those years, so you always run into each other.
Of course.
It's clear, so,
What's that yodeling song that I saw when I watched An Evening with Sandler and Young? And can you still yodel?
Less precise. I still can, because it's the click between the baritone and the head voice, but it has to be controlled. A yodel is something that you probably can't learn. You're born with it, I think. And I was a great yodeler, I must say myself.
He was a paid yodeler, Gilbert. Can you still do a little, Tony, or are we putting you on the spot?
Ooh, no, forget it. Forget it, Frank.
Close
Forget
enough.
it, Frank.
Close
You've
enough.
gone a little too far there, Frank.
Close
Now,
enough.
did you work with Jack Benny?
Oh, absolutely.
And what was Benny like?
First time I met Jack Benny was Ralph and I were at the Drake Hotel in Chicago, and we did our show there. Drake Hotel was a class hotel, like the Plaza in New York. And after the show, the maitre d' comes to us and he said, "You know who's in the room? Jack Benny." I said, "You're kidding." And Jack had placed himself with his wife all the way in the back on a little table. And Ralph and I rushed out, of course, to go and see him. Again, great guy, great guy. I mean, those guys were not only the talent, but the humanity,
I think it's something that's interesting, too. As you said, the camaraderie among entertainers took you by surprise. You didn't
because Frank,
it.
In Europe, it doesn't exist much. See, the playing field there is smaller in a sense. It's big, it's large, but it's smaller. In the United States, live and let live, and actually to the point where people start admiring each other's talent. Like when I saw Sammy Davis do Bojangles,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was a picture of perfection.
I'll bet.
You can't get any better than that. Did I throw enough names around, guys?
You
so
did.
far?
We like that about you. By the way, the Christmas special on here is also a treat. You and Ralph, 2 Christmases.
Yes.
Which you did up in Canada. You kept the commercials in. It's fun to see you guys doing the commercials.
Those old commercials, right? Yeah.
Yes, that's fun. By the way, Jane Morgan, your guest star in this, still with us.
She is?
97.
What?
She's 97, still with us.
You're kidding me.
Jane Morgan, the singer. Nope, looked it up. How about
Jane,
that?
Well, and that's amazing.
We'll have to put you guys in touch.
Well, that would be nice. I would love to see. I always regret the fact, Kaye Ballard was with us in London, of course, and Kaye
Yes.
I love Kaye Ballard, and I knew that she lived in New York, and I heard that she passed before I ever talked to her, and I have regrets about that, But
I got to work with her a few years ago. Did you meet Kaye Ballard, Gil?
No.
Oh, she was a character. We had her on the Joy Behar show here in New York about 10 years ago.
And did you see the little thing with Vincent Price that I did?
Oh, and Vincent Price, Gilbert. Oh, I'm glad you brought it up. Vincent Price is on this
Wow.
set.
What did you do with Vincent Price?
I didn't do anything. I just stood there, dumbfounded.
I buried the lead. I should have mentioned Vincent Price.
Yeah.
What do you want people to take away from this, Tony, from this experience when they sit back and they watch this stuff?
I want them to analyze the difference.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be obvious to people with the right mind, of course. It's going to be obvious. And those 4 sets are precious sets, in my opinion, of that era.
Yeah.
And people, even there's about 210, 212 Sandler and Young recordings between Capitol and Just the Two of Us. By the way, Just the Two of Us, that other set of 9 albums, is the most diversified Sandler and Young that you have ever heard. There's a couple of yodel songs in there too. But
I love watching.
It's extremely diversified, I think, and it's what it is we tackled, because you asked before, did Ralph sing French? But did Ralph sing French? Yes, he did. And there's a couple of wonderful songs on there where he actually did his thing. Ralph.
Did Ralph write it? Did he write a Christmas Carol?
Ralph wrote Snow Scene, the first one on the album with Joker Barry.
Yes.
Beautiful song he did, yeah.
Yes, beautiful. And you wrote French lyrics.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
But in this Ralton, Walk on Autumn Day, which is a love story song, beautiful, big orchestras we had there. I mean, huge. The international flight might be very interesting for people because we sing in 7, let's see if I remember that, but we sing in 8 different languages.
Wow.
We sing, to be specific, Spanish, Italian, German, French, Greek, Japanese, Russian, and English.
Amazing.
Yeah,
really amazing. Because Ralph's always joking. Ralph's a bit of a clown. You can see it in him, in his performances.
Not a bit of a clown. Ralph was funny. Ralph was
very funny, and he would get a lot of mileage out of saying that he only spoke one language and not so well, while you spoke 4. But you got him going.
This is my European partner, Tony Sandler. He speaks 5 languages fluently.
Excuse me.
And I speak 1 language lousily.
That's it. That's it. Gilbert, there's another extra on one of them, which is Tony and Ralph on the Merv Griffin show.
Oh, yes.
With James Coco, Florence Henderson, and William Demarest.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but I mean, the Griffin, we were always on Griffin.
Yeah.
We were always on Douglas, yeah.
Yeah.
And those guys were pals, and especially when we were headlining in Vegas, Merv was also in Vegas, and so it was easy for us to step in there, And I have a question for you to do with Ralton. May I ask a question, gentlemen?
Please.
Have you ever heard of Leo the Lion?
Yeah.
You don't mean the MGM mascot?
No, Leo the Lion was the voice of Spook and Brain in the Hanna-Barbera animated TV series, Top Cat. And Leo the Lion was for 12 years Sandler and Young's musical director.
What was Leo the Lion's real name?
Levin. Levin was his family name. Leo the Lion. He was something else, this guy. And he just passed. He was 96, and just a couple of months ago.
Wow.
He passed, yeah. But I thought maybe you were aware of him. But he was in Ripley's Believe It or Not. He was the only man in the world, guys, that could hum a tune on one side of his mouth and whistle another on the other side of his mouth.
Incredible. Now we have to do some deep research.
And he is in Ripley, Believe It or Not.
I love that. Tony, as we wind this up, tell us, you're 88.
Do you have enough material, guys?
We got you're 88 now. We see your little fireplace there burning in the background. You're in Minnesota.
Yes.
Yeah, where you made your home. When you look back, when you with Marna's help and Michael's help, you compiled all of this stuff. What do you miss most? What do you miss about the life? Was it the road? Was it the friendship? Was it the performances?
You would not believe it, Frank, but I'm so happy here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so grateful that I don't have to take a plane anymore
all
over the world.
Well, you're speaking Gilbert's language now.
And I'm so grateful that I'm here in this beautiful state. I'm so grateful that we have 4 beautiful seasons.
Mm-hmm.
My wife, Mimi, is doing fine. She's 84.
How long have you and Mimi been together?
65 years.
65 years, Gilbert.
Yeah. And so I'm a happy man. Look at me. I know, and we're both healthy. And I'm delighted that I have friends like the two of you. I mean, that's very important in this world, isn't it?
You're a sweetheart.
Gilbert?
Yes.
Yeah. And Frank, who has been talking to me for a while now, I know how gentle a man he is and how attentive he is to all that stuff. And I greatly appreciate that, Frank.
You're a good man. You deserve it.
With a name like Santo Padre, how can you go wrong?
We do this show, Tony, and there are certain extra benefits to doing something like this, and meeting our heroes, meeting people like you, the people that Gilbert and I grew up with, is a gift.
Well,
we've done almost 400 of them, and I don't think we're jaded yet, are we, Gil?
No,
well, that's very kind of you to say that.
We mean it.
It's very, very kind of you.
The thing with this collection, I'm repeating, the thing with this collection is exactly what Frank and I try to do on this show all the time. Is like, hey, remember these guys, look at them.
Yeah, and it can be gotten, as you know, on if you go to the website Sandler and Young legacy.com.
Sandler, let me repeat it: Sandler and Young
legacy.com. Yeah.
.com. Okay.
And actually, there's a special for Christmas. They can get all 4 of them for at a reduced price right now. So
okay, we'll do a special promotion.
Sandler and Young, Sandler and Young.
Legacy.com. There's a wonderful bit on An Evening with Sandler and Young on the Golden Years, which is you guys doing. Who wrote the banter? Did you have comedy writers writing your stage banter?
No.
You made it up on the spot.
Well, not necessarily, but it all grew as we went along, and like I said, Ralph had a lot of humor, and it came natural. Let's say, there was nothing pushed there or unnatural. That's why it worked.
There's a lovely bit about he says to you, I didn't know we were going to become this popular, but why does it have to be Sandler and Young?
Oh yeah.
Why can't it be Young and Sandler? And it turns into a song. It turns into a bit.
Yeah, Frank. Yeah, that was all special material written for that show, particularly for An Evening with Sandler and Young. Yeah.
By you guys yourselves?
No. That was a writer. We had a writer for that one. No.
Okay.
There's some very good stuff in there. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a little bit of everything, and just a real treat. A treat to see you guys on stage. The Christmas special is great. I loved you two of you singing Edelweiss. Looking at those sets, the Swiss Chalet sets, and I know it was hard work. I know you were putting everything together in 10 weeks.
Yeah.
But you also looked like you were having fun.
Well, we had fun. We had fun, and it was lovely. It was lovely. It was lovely to be in London, and I lost my microphone.
That's okay. That's okay.
It was lovely to be in London, and it was also lovely to meet all those great British stars.
Sure.
They were very accomplished people, for sure.
Sure. It's great to see. There's one skit, Gilbert, with Tony and Terry Thomas. You know what I'm talking about? He's wearing a string of onions around his neck. And the two of you, and you can't keep a straight face.
No.
And he's blowing his lines left and right, and he's improvising.
Yeah.
And
Terry Thomas.
you can see that you guys are wearing out from the work, from the overwork, but also having a wonderful time.
Absolutely. Camaraderie, like I said. Camaraderie. Beautiful. Beautiful,
Well,
beautiful.
I'm glad you were 5'10" and a half.
Yeah, Frank.
Or 6'1". What was it?
6'2".
6'2". I'm
But
glad
now
you were tall.
I shrunk a little bit now. Can I call you guys when I have a little more on my other stuff?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
We're always happy to talk to you. You know that.
Terrific.
All right,
Terrific. What can I say?
Gilbert will close. My friend, it is good to see you. It's been a couple of years, and you haven't changed, and it's a treat.
Yeah.
And
say hi to your wife, will you? For me?
I certainly will. My wife loves when you say her name. When you say Geneviève.
Geneviève.
Yes.
Geneviève.
She did not take my last name, sadly. But I'm so glad you and Mimi are happy and healthy and 65 years, and God bless. Happy Thanksgiving and Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
And
thank you very much.
Can I put you on the spot?
Yeah.
Every one of these ended with you and Ralph singing that little farewell, goodbye, Auf Wiedersehen song. Do you know the one I mean?
No, not right offhand.
From Sound of Music?
No, it's a little. You sing a little farewell song. You sing farewell and goodbye, and we'll see you again. So long, and we'll see you again
so long
soon.
for now. Arrivederci, au revoir. So long and ciao. It's time to say goodbye. Is that the one?
That's it.
We're looking forward to the next week when you can be with you. Auf Wiedersehen until we meet again.
I'm going to make Tony Sandler sing anytime I get the opportunity.
Whatever is left.
You're the best, buddy.
And to see Tony Sandler cry in German.
So to our fans, get the box set.
Yeah, you guys
box
are
set,
great.
Live from London, The Golden Years, those Capitol recording stars, and just the two of us.
Super.
And there's a little bit of everything, and the great booklets inside too.
Can I give you a hand, guys?
You're the best.
Can I give you a hand?
Thank you.
Tony, we love you. We'll see you again. Lucien.
Love you too. C'est moi.
And I'm Gilbert Gottfried here with my co-host Frank Santopadre. And we've been talking to the wonderful, once again, our second visit with Tony Sandler. Thank you so much.
You're the best.
Thank you.
We'll see you, pal. Happy holidays.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.